good evening. It's Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Of course, it's the DBR. It's the Denver Bronco Roundup. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Of course, we are brought to you by the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Make sure you're checking out the Rocky Mountain Sports Network for all your news, rumors, and podcasts like this beautiful one right here. And these beautiful gentlemen right here. We got your good friend, Jody Moncrief. We got your buddy over here, Albert Knoppers. Of course, my name is Keith Brugman. Welcome, gentlemen, to the show. How you doing, man?
Welcome.
I'm doing great, and yeah, good to be here again.
Yeah. It was. We got a lot to go over. Lots to get over. But anything you guys want to share with Broncos country before we get started?
It's a great day to be here, and some good news. We got new wide receiver right here, and a new coach. So yeah, we have some good news.
Yeah, got a couple little teasers in there. Albert, appreciate it. Jody, anything in the last week that you need to share with Broncos country?
Nothing new that's really exciting. So
Very good, man. Everything is happening in within Broncos country itself, within Dove Valley, with heading down to Indianapolis, getting back home. A lot of things are shaking and baking this time of year. I don't have a whole lot to talk about either. It's been a hectic week, but we got a great show planned, and appreciate everyone jumping in here. Gentlemen like Mr. Michael Ronquillo. So thank you very much. Good evening, Keith, Jody, and Albert. Good evening to you, Mr. Ronquillo. Very nice to see you. And, of course, Michelle Knopper's already jumping in and saying, evening, gents. Love the new look. Well, yeah, new little intro that we got going on there, a new little outro. I appreciate you guys noticing, like Michelle. And yeah, always trying to keep things a little bit fresh here. So, like I said, tons to get to, guys. We're going to try to go over the franchise tag and Draymond Jones, franchise tags around the league, contracts and deadlines, contracts maybe like Daniel Jones. That's a contract that we could talk about. Maybe Carr to the Saints, the NFL Combine, and all your comments, all your questions, all wrapped up in a nice little hour. It's nice and perfect. A little present for you. So don't smirk too much there, Jody. I understand. I figured that would get a good laugh out of you, but I digress. So, gentlemen, let's just start it off. Today was the day, the franchise tag deadline. It passes without the Broncos using it on Draymond Jones or any other Bronco for that matter. So let's just get started. Jody, was this a good decision? And tell me why or why not.
I'm kind of on the fence on it. I don't think Draymond's worth $20 million a year, and I think that's probably what he'll end up getting in free agency.
Okay.
But I'm also on the other side of, well, that's why we traded Chubb so that we could have all this extra money to pay Draymond, and now we might not. So. But he probably is more suited for a 4-3 than a 3-4, his body type. So, and the defensive tackle, defensive end market is a little weak this offseason. So I think someone's gonna overpay for him.
Yeah, certainly hitting the market. I don't expect him to be light on offers myself. Albert. Big payday if you would have franchised him, obviously. What was it, $19, $20 million, if I remember right, Jody? Does that sound about right, Albert?
Like 19.8.
19.8, okay. I wasn't too far off then. Didn't franchise him. It looks like he's going to be able to test free agency. Was that a good move, bad move? And why or why not, buddy?
I think it is a good move. Draymond Jones was a candidate from before the Sean Payton era. The Bradley Chubb wasn't before the Sean Payton era, and Sean Payton might not see as much in Draymond Jones as we do. So I think it is up to Sean Payton. Sean Payton must have something in his sleeve to get it taken care of.
Yeah, I was a little hung up in the air on this one. We don't have a whole lot of depth along our defensive front. We don't have a whole lot of depth on our team, quite honestly. So, preserving what we have and still being able to build going into the future is really what we needed to do. And Draymond is a key piece. Obviously, I saw a stat today that he had the most sacks in his first 3 years since Malik Reed, who we traded away last year, who had that record. So, he's a dominant force. He certainly can be utilized, I think, in both schemes. But boy, he's out there, and I think it's going to be tough for the Broncos to match an offer. Because, like Jody said, I don't think it's a very deep market for guys of his talent and his youth. Don't forget about how young he is. I believe he's 26, 27 years old. Still got a ton of good years in front of him as well. So
the move is, save $19 million. Maybe you can get 2 average linebackers like for Draymond Jones. So you already said we have no depth. So
we don't have a ton of depth in a lot of different positions. And obviously this money will most likely be used elsewhere. I can't imagine, again, if he was going to be tagged in that $20 million range that we're going out and paying $20 million for any one player in particular per year. But so it'll get spread around. Hopefully it's enough to improve this team, but I think it does leave a little bit of hole up front. Like I said, I'm a little bit worried about our depth, and it's not a place that I really want to create a lack of depth. We need to focus on the other side of the ball, in my opinion. So I guess coming right down to it, I guess I would have been okay with a franchise tag, hoping that we could at least work something out long term, something that wouldn't have hurt us so badly. So now that he's going to test the market, it's going to be a lot tougher to get that done. So
is the transitional tag still a possibility?
No, I think once you've put that franchise, or once the
deadline hit,
once the deadline hit, I think that was the franchise. Jody, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Yeah, once the deadline hit, it was now or never.
It was for both transition as well as a franchise tags. That deadline came up at 2:00 our time, 4:00 Eastern or something like that, if I remember correctly. So
right,
2:00 our time. So that time has passed. And speaking of that time passing, I guess we could pass on to kind of our next subject. There was only 6 players across the entire league that applied the franchise tag. It does take 2 first-round picks on these non-exclusive franchise tags to get that player from its original team if somebody else decides to go after these players. These players, just to get everyone up to speed, if you're not already up to speed, Lamar Jackson, Tony Pollard, Evan Ingram, Daron Payne, Josh Jacobs, and Saquon Barkley. Albert, which of those 6 players do you want to talk about first, and what do you got for us?
That they have given Lamar Jackson the franchise tag, that is a little surprising.
Yeah, huge news.
That's I don't know why they give him a franchise tag. Is there maybe a prove it year for him? That might be the case then. Saquon Barkley. I can see why they put a franchise tag on him. He is one of the best running backs there is at the moment. So, yeah,
taking 2 right off the board. All right, Lamar Jackson, and a little bit on Saquon Barkley. Jody, do you want to hit on those 2 guys, Lamar Jackson, really quick, or not really quick? Take your time. Lamar Jackson, Saquon Barkley. Those are the 2 guys that Albert wanted to talk about out of the gate. So what are your thoughts on those 2 guys?
I think Lamar Jackson, he's probably a little harder to negotiate with. He has no agent. He wants a 100% guaranteed deal, and that Deshaun Watson deal kind of screwed everything up for if you're not on the player side of getting paid. And Baltimore, I think, kind of just said that they're going to put that transition tag on him, and if a team's willing to offer him big money, then they'll take two ones and roll with Tyler Huntley and see you later, I guess. If it's something that they feel that they can match, then they can match. If it's way out of the range, then I think they'll move on and be happy with 2 ones.
Yeah, it's tough not to be happy with 2 ones in most scenarios. Just before I get to my comments, a couple other people jumping in the chat. Kenny saying, Kenny Kirkpatrick of the K&K Show jumping in. He's saying, not a happy Giants fan today. Hope I'm wrong about overpaying for Jones. Doesn't look good. We'll get to that and probably here in just a moment as well. So I appreciate you jumping in here, though, Kenny. Just wanted to give you a little bit of a shout out. And our good friend Chad Jensen jumping in and saying, rock on, dudes. Rock on, Chad. Good, nice to see you in our chat. Really appreciate it. And he says, big news day. Kinda. Yeah. Obviously there's a lot of things that are shaken out, and we're going to hit up a big report by ESPN's Matthew Berry here in a little bit, and I'm sure that's kind of what he's alluding to. Just kind of getting through our franchise tags, and we'll hit that as well. So Lamar Jackson, I think, as you kind of alluded to, Jody, I think it was really tough for negotiations to happen. And I think ultimately what Baltimore is doing is they're saying, go ahead and see what the number looks like out there. See if somebody's willing to give you a number that you like. Obviously, they would have the ability to match that offer in this situation, and or let that player go for whatever offer they're willing to give him, and collect 2 first-round draft picks. I think they are thinking Lamar Jackson is pricing himself higher than what anybody else in the league is really expecting him to get paid. And they're just trying to give him at least a reality check. And worst case scenario, you come out with 2 first-round draft picks. So not a bad move. It's certainly a chance to reset. And there's already been, a little bit of speculation that Washington and the Commanders might be that team that's willing to go and give up 2 first-round draft picks to get a Lamar Jackson. So one more gentleman jumping in before we get to our next subject. Graham is jumping in here and saying, how is everyone? Well, I'm doing fantastic, man. How are you doing, Graham? And Albert, Jody, how are you doing?
It's a good evening talking Broncos football.
Yeah. Albert gave us the 2 thumbs up for anybody who's tuning in, only in audio. So that'll be his response to you, Graham, as well. So we're doing fantastic. Nice to see you in the chat, man. I don't know if we've seen your name in. Always good to see new faces. So nice. Thanks for joining in, buddy. Like I said, trying to get through a lot of different topics, but we're in franchise tag mode right now. We hit Lamar Jackson. Saquon Barkley, just a circle around to Kenny. Franchise tag for Saquon Barkley. That kind of set up for more news of your franchise. Now your franchise quarterback for at least the next 4 years and the next $160 million. That's a big payday. That's a big payday, Kenny. And I understand why maybe you're, maybe not the happiest Giants fan. I wouldn't say I'd be the least happiest Giants fan. It's never bad when you have to consider paying a guy that type of money. But, yeah, you're in a different position than you were last year. That's for sure. Jody's laughing. Jody, you want to add in on that a little bit?
No, it's just been an ongoing rift with pay Jones $45 million, and he got close to that. So, I mean, good for him. Brian Daboll must really see something in him that he thinks he can, continue to get stuff, production out of him.
Yeah.
And then I kind of wonder, I heard someone bring this up today. What does Saquon Barkley, does he resent Daniel Jones now? Because he probably cost him a lot of money because they were going to tag Jones if he doesn't get that deal. And someone was probably going to overpay for Barkley on the market.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always when you have 2 guys that are coming up against contracts like that in a contract year, and one guy gets it and the other guy gets the franchise tag, and they both are on the offensive side of the ball. It does make you wonder exactly what the feelings are like, if there's any resentment. It'll be interesting. Graham Matt Staffiero is jumping in here, and I didn't even recognize the name. Matt Staffiero, part of the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. A little plug here for those guys. Graham is rocking and rolling over on the Mile High Breakdown with Matt Staffiero every Friday at 10 a.m. That's Mountain Standard Time. So, yeah, you got to go check out the Mile High Breakdown. Mile High Breakdown does a lot more than just Broncos. So if you're looking for all your sports in the Mile High area, go check that out. Nice little 10 a.m. show. Get your Friday off rocking and rolling. Check them out on the Breakdown, Mile High Breakdown over on Rocky Mountain Sports Network. So thanks for joining the chat, Matt. Appreciate it, man. And Graham as well. So, all right, gentlemen, I just wanted to hit other guys on this list real quick. We did have Tony Pollard, we did have Josh Jacobs, and we did have Saquon Barkley. The reason I bring up all three of those names is because those were all maybe rumored destination Bronco country running backs at one point or another. A lot of people were pining after a Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley, even a few people interested in Josh Jacobs, who, even though he's a Raider, put on tremendous performances, especially against the Broncos at times. So your thoughts on all three running backs? Half of the field ends up being running backs as far as this franchise tag. Is that surprising to you, Albert?
No. And the rumors were spread, indeed, that the Broncos were interested, but the Broncos cannot even afford them. So doing the franchise tax, I think it is a blessing in disguise for the Broncos so that they do not go after them.
Albert, just like, don't overpay for another running back. Maybe that might segue greatly into our portions of our later part of our show. Jody, are you surprised at all, or what are your thoughts on half of the candidates that were franchise tags being all running backs? So,
no, I think it makes a lot of sense. Running backs have short, short shelf life, and you can keep a guy for 1 year and not have to pay him a huge contract that on the back end you're regretting that no one wants to pick up. So I think this is probably going to be the norm in the future. You can, even if you got to tag them once or twice, you can run them into the ground and go find another running back. It's not good for running backs, but you can kind of see where this is going. The days of, Derrick Henry getting paid big and stuff like that, where now reports are the Titans are shopping him.
Correct.
Because of it's just the toll on your body, 300-400 hits a year like that.
Sure is, and I'll kind of chime in on what David Slade jumping in the conversation. We'll mention him just a little bit later too. But he's like, running backs are cheap to tag, and that was going to be my point. At just a hair over $10 million, and to allude to what Jody's talking about, these guys don't have a whole lot of time in the league. So if you get them on a rookie deal, and you happen to get them, let's say, first couple of rounds where they're on possibly a 4 or 5 year deal, 3 to 5 year deal, somewhere in there, and then you can franchise tag them for another year. This is their entire career, possibly, for a first round guy that runs the end of his rookie contract, is franchise tagged once. And that's, you start looking at running backs much beyond that, and they're like, oh boy, he's getting up on 30 years old. Does he still have the legs? Does he still does he have the miles left on him at that point? So it is very cheap to tag him. It wasn't surprising to me that all three of these guys got tagged, because at $10 million, it's a far cry from, what Daniel Jones got paid, Kenny. So
Kenny stole the words out of my mouth. Look at Zeke. He's $16 million against the cap. Dallas is, you're either going to restructure or get cut. When you're starting running back, Pollard's probably going to be their starter next year. He's making $9 million. How are you going to pay a backup $16 million on the cap?
Yeah, not a really two running back system per se, like Sean Payton's system would be. So it doesn't make sense to have two guys that expensive on your payroll in the running back position. So good point, man. So Matt Staffiero just jumping in one more time saying, still think the Broncos will sniff the running back in market and free agency. a good name that he brought up. David Montgomery is an eye, like he's saying, is a name to keep an eye on. I love Sanders. Of course, Sanders, he's speaking of from the Eagles, but think he's got his sights set elsewhere. So, yeah, I also wonder exactly what it would cost for a Miles Sanders to come to Broncos country as well. David Montgomery, I think, would come a little bit cheaper just because the success that he's had in Chicago comparatively to what Miles Sanders been a part of in Philadelphia. But good guys to keep an eye on. And one of the reasons I know, if I remember correctly, our running back coach is directly tied to David Montgomery. It was their running back coach in college as well, if I remember correctly. If I'm,
Yeah.
you can correct me if I'm wrong, or please do.
The running back I'm intrigued is like Kenny said. I think if Zeke gets cut, I think that's. I mean, he's a proven starter. You don't need somebody. I mean, Zeke, I think you could wear down until you find out if Javante's going to come back healthy and is ready. If not, you've got a proven guy that can, run and block and catch out of the backfield.
Could be a nice fit. It'd be obviously really to be dependent on what he'd be willing to come in on and for what price. But yeah, I think that's a fantastic point, man. I wouldn't mind having Zeke. He's not my favorite. He was my favorite coming out, but as of years of late, it just seems like this. He has a downtrend. He has a downtrend during seasons. He can start off hot, but then end up getting cold. He's just not the same explosive, dynamic player that I loved when he first came out of college, and that's probably why I'm talking about getting him quite a bit cheaper than the product that first hit the field. In the NFL,
and that's
so.
My wife's a big Cowboys fan, and so I've noticed that he just didn't look explosive this year. Really, I don't know if he was injured or he just didn't really look really super explosive.
I know that he tried to lose a little bit of weight prior to this season. He was trying to.
I said that.
Smaller.
I thought he looked overweight, but reports are, he lost weight, but he just looked big to me. They say the camera adds 20 pounds, but he just did look he did look big to me.
Just wrapping up this pool, guys. Evan Ingram, Daron Payne. Daron Payne is quite a defensive lineman. I don't blame him getting tagged. Evan Ingram, maybe a little bit of a surprise. Tight end there. I didn't look up the stats as far as what they get paid on a tag, but it can't be inexpensive. I can say that. And so, it's kind of surprised that he got tagged and something just didn't get worked out. Maybe that's something that they're working for down the road, is to get a deal done with him and not have him play on the franchise tag. Haven't looked into that, but that just kind of wraps up our franchise tag.
Yeah, and I think Payne is the reason Draymond Jones didn't wanted to test free agency. That kind of set the market of. He's probably the second or third best defensive lineman out there. So,
yeah.
I think that's probably his floor now is 20. I would think he's going to get 20, maybe a little more now.
Wow, that is a big contract. I was thinking in that 18 to 20 realm is where we'd end up floating in, but boy, that's huge.
That's just a lot of
$20 million a year. So
a lot of money. I just, if you lose him, what do you have? Deshaun Williams, he's a free agent. You don't have, you lose Jones. What do you have? DJ Jones? And
yeah, DJ Jones.
And Mike Purcell, who they're talking could be a cap casualty. So you've got the two rookies from last year and DJ Jones. Really, that becomes a big need now on this team.
That's what I'm saying, man. We did not have the depth for this. That's why I'd be okay with a franchise tagging of Draymond Jones, hoping to work something out long term.
Right, hoping you can work out a long-term deal, yeah.
He was young enough. He's 26. You know what I mean? It's not like you're trying to work out a long-term deal for a 33-year-old defensive lineman. He's 26 years old. So
here's the thing. Maybe they're doing the same thing that what they did with. He went to the Seahawks now, the defensive lineman.
He was part of a trade, though. Is that the guy you're talking about?
Yeah,
Oh,
but
Shelby Harris.
Shelby Harris. But that's what they did with Shelby Harris too. They let him test the market, and he didn't get what he got, so the Broncos could get him for cheaper. And maybe that
Yeah.
is maybe
I
that
just
is
think
something that's
Shelby.
happened.
I think Shelby Harris and Draymond Jones are in two different boats, man. I think Shelby Harris, they rightfully let him test the market, and Shelby Harris came back. Um, but I think Draymond Jones is too good of a talent. Someone's going to see too much in him. Especially at his age. You still have time to work with this guy and make him better. You know what I mean? That's scary. So as David Slade is jumping in. He's saying that's risky. That's risky trying to let him go out there and test market. So
I see Malik Jackson 2.0 all over again. Someone who's gonna way overpay, and look what happened when Malik left. I mean, his numbers really were never the same. He left this scheme that he put big numbers up in, and he never produced in Jacksonville, then got hurt, never really did anything after that. So, but I think someone like you said will massively overpay for him.
Time will tell. Honestly, hopefully he's a great Denver Bronco. He comes back for many years. That's what we all would hope for. I think that's what we would like. He played great last year, and he was a key piece to this defense. So I don't discount his efforts at all, and I would love to see him back. I don't know if it's going to be a possibility. Maybe it's just a little dream of mine, but I digress. Gentlemen, getting to what Chad was talking about, or maybe hinting at a little bit earlier, we need to talk about NBC's Matthew Berry. I want to talk about 4 of the 23 things. 23 things. Man, that's a mouthful all of a sudden. NBC, Matthew Berry's, and his 4 of his 23 things that he said were the most interesting things he heard at the combine. So, you guys ready for this? Because if you haven't read it, or if any of you guys out there haven't heard this yet, there is a lot that came out. And like I said, big news, kind of, from Chad Jensen. So, number 1, Russ could be on a 1-year audition with a source telling him, quote unquote, I don't think Peyton likes Russ. He's got 1 year to prove himself, or Peyton will move on. So, first question of 2 questions is A, do you believe it? And B, what do you think Russ would need to do in order to survive beyond next season? Jody, I pose these 2 questions to you first, sir.
No, I think it's another clickbait to get, what do we do? Drum up garbage.
More drama?
Russ. More drama with Russ. I mean, Peyton's come out and said he's looking forward to working with him. Russell's excited. I'm over last year. Last year, the whole thing was garbage, from coaching to everything, and nothing was right. We can play the blame game all year, but that's done and over with. He's going to get back in his system. They're going to run plays that work for him, and I expect big things out of Russ. And until you hear from Sean Payton that he doesn't like Russ or doesn't want Russ here, just because someone says that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's just another narrative to stir the pot, in my opinion.
Well, man, I appreciate that, man. There is a lot of there's been a ton of it,
I'll add one other thing too. I agree that it is a prove it year.
Okay, that's what I was going to reflect back to you.
Because if he plays another garbage season like last year and has those, then yes, I think they might move on. But if he is putting up, he doesn't have to put up 20 numbers like he did in Seattle, 40 touchdowns or anything.
Yeah.
But if he goes out and he puts up close to 30 touchdowns and they're winning games, he's back. And he knew Russ was going to be here this year. I think he's going to do all he can to get out of Russ. The best thing for Denver is if Russ produces. So all this that he wants his own quarterback and this and that and whatever, that's just to stir the pot, because I think this is just fueling Russ and he's going to be motivated. And I've said it for months now.
I know you have.
He's going to have a big season next year, and all this that it was all him. I don't care. He wanted to run this system. Peyton wanted to run this, or Hackett wanted to. That doesn't matter. What is like for Peyton? What is there for him not to like about Russ? What is there?
Look at his performance last year.
In the Pro Bowl.
Look at his age. Look at his,
Right.
You can point at a lot of things. Look at his injury before he even came to the Broncos. Look at how a lot of people talked about him coming in overweight. Look about the way the negative attention that he brings towards himself, and a guy that Peyton says he doesn't want to have that type of media attention on this team. You can point towards a lot of things, Jody. I mean,
you look at
I'm not going to just let you get off and say, hey, why wouldn't Sean Payton want Russell Wilson? There's plenty of reasons if you want to get into
Sean
it.
Payton, and he says he doesn't like the social media and stuff, and then the first chirpings of when are you going to hire coaches, and he gets on there and says, oh, we've hired 28 of 35 coaches, and
that's a good point. Hey, I want to.
He's doing the same thing. I can't decide if he's doing it out of spite or if he's just screwing with everyone. And so
that's a good point. He calls out. Someone calls him out on coaches not being hired. He says, "Hey, we'll get to it when we get to it." And the next day, he drops a list of coaches. Right? People say that. He doesn't want Russell Wilson. Crickets. Maybe there's something to be said there, Jody. I don't know, man. I'm telling you, sometimes when there's smoke, there's fire, and Matthew Berry is not the worst reporter out there to be reporting things like this. So,
no, I just find it. Russ does something good. We say nothing. Somebody wants to bring up, oh, he's on a prove it deal. How many people have to say that? But it's clickbait every time someone else says that. We know if he plays like trash next year, he's probably not going to be back next year.
Fair.
So
that's
the next guy that says that and then drums up another conversation with it, that's just clickbait to me.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to give Albert a little bit of screen time because we went off. Albert, go ahead, buddy.
Finally.
I'm sorry, buddy. Sorry. I shouldn't apologize, Jody. Man. I tell you what, you get Jody on that, Russ is getting a little bit of negative media rant, and you better watch out, boys. Better watch out. I'm just kidding you. Giving you a bad time, Jody. Go ahead, Albert.
So here's my point on Sean Payton. Why would he come to a Denver Broncos if he didn't like Russ Wilson? Because he would have to deal with at least a 4-year aftermath. If he doesn't have him for next year, if you're going to let him go, he still has the financial cap to deal with. How attractive is that? So I don't believe that Sean Payton does not like Russell Wilson. He sees a lot of potential in Russell Wilson, and he will get some of the best years of Russell Wilson out of him. And that is what I believe.
That's a good point, buddy.
And this guy is just like another Colin Cowherd or whatever. Coward, or whatever his name is.
Cowherd, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's how I like. Because if you don't like the quarterback you have, and you see the financial deal that you have to deal with, I don't see a 1-year trial coming up. It is a 4-year trial for Russell.
Yeah, I'm not going to be as rosy as you. Obviously, me and Jody kind of went back and forth on this a little bit. I think that where there's smoke, there's fire. Like I said, I think Matthew Berry is a respected reporter out there. I think it's the reason we're talking about it tonight. It is because I think he's well enough respected in the industry that it leads some credence to the conversation. So it is easy. I talked about this probably ever since Russell got hired and he started struggling. It does become easier after this year to let go of Russell Wilson. And guys, again, I just don't feel like a lot of people contextualize this very well, but the cap continues to go up and TV deals are hitting big time on next year. And so we're going to see a huge cap increase next year. To say that, hey, we had to take a hit because of we let Russell Wilson go, I don't think is going to be as big of a hindrance as most people make it out to be. And I do agree that it's a 4-year plan. It's a 4-year plan for Sean Payton. It's a 4-year plan for Sean Payton in order to make these Broncos the best they possibly can be. And that's with or without Russell Wilson. He wasn't brought here to fix Russell Wilson. He was here to make a great offense, a great team, a great defense, a great organization, a winning organization. And I know that it's going to have to play to players' strengths while they're here, but I don't think he's stuck to anybody long term until they can prove it to him a little bit too. So I digress on that, but I think
well, I agree with that if you're playing bad, he's not beholden to Russ being here. But
like I said, that's fair, bud.
What is this going to be year 12? He's had 11 great seasons or 11 above average seasons. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been to 2. And now all of a sudden we're going to base everything off of one season where he was not in his scheme. He had horrible coaches. And to say, well, who knows that he's going to take to coaching or who knows how he's going to act. Look at the last 2 games of the season. There was no rumblings when Jerry Rosberg did a 180 on how things were ran, made him start running his offense. There was no rumblings about that. He did it because he had seen that it wasn't working, and that's it. And that's what I think is going to happen going forward. I'm not an apologist for Russ. Russ played bad last year, and Russ, let's even say it was 100% Russ that wanted this offense. At some point, Hackett needed to be a leader and did nothing to stop it, just allowed it. Just because, and I heard this was a good analogy I heard today. If you go into the grocery store and you see little kids screaming and throwing a fit, do you blame the kids for acting like that? Or do you blame the parents for letting them act like that? It was, the whole thing was messed up. Even you can say whatever the percentage is, it was all messed up last year. And I think they've got stability now as a coach and a coaching staff, and Russ is going to turn it around, and all this is going to go away after next year when he leads them to the playoffs.
That's what every Denver Bronco fan wants. And I appreciate that you can agree that if he struggles, they have the chance to move on. And I can appreciate the fact that, hey, ever since Russ started to struggle, it's been an onslaught upon Russell Wilson. And it seems like there's endless reports about him, his family, his character, who he is, how he plays, where he is at, what time he's getting in, what he's doing on a plane. You name it. It's been endless. It's been constant. And it's been honestly way too much. It's more than any other player is getting scrutinized, especially given his reputation as far as who he is as a person, how religious he is, what he does for charities. And I know that got a little bit misconstrued as far as what that number was. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. But what he does for charities, who he is as a person, the amount of trouble he doesn't get in. And, man, this guy gets a lot of flack for going out there and trying to be a good guy.
That's why I say clickbait, because it's like the stuff that got brought up a couple weeks ago with him wanting Pete and John fired.
Yeah,
he's been gone
like said,
over a year now. Who really cares? They tried to trade him twice, and he's supposed to go in there and say, you tried to trade me twice, and I'm supposed to be cozy with, hey, continue to be my coach. No one says anything about them trying to trade him twice.
No, that's like I said. So I'm giving you that, Jody. I'm giving you that.
I don't know whatever he's done. Breaths. Cause I have a buddy that asked me this. What has Russell Wilson done to the media to stir up all of this? Where it's like he is constantly just dig and dig and dig till they find something. They just want to find something all the time.
Yep, I agree, buddy. I'm right there. I'm right here with Dave, buddy. Breathe, Jody. I like trying to say, hey, man, I agree with you. I understand, man. The onslaught's been overwhelming, and it is a ton of clickbait or whatever you want to call it. It's just been consistent. But I want you to breathe. I want you to think about Bob Ross painting a nice scenic landscape at this point. You know, happy little trees.
Happy
It's
little
all
trees.
it's all good. It's all good. Whew, feels bad. Feels good. Feels good. Well, hopefully it'll feel
Much
good enough
better.
to move on to topic number 2. So that he had, like I said, we had 4 of these. So we might have to pick up the pace a little bit on these next ones. I'm going to go right back to you though, Jody.
Oh,
Oh, Albert, did I go ahead?
yeah, we should not forget our sponsor. Let's have a little break about the sponsor.
You want me to just jump it in right here? Okay,
Yeah.
let me scroll down because I did want to make sure. We do have a fantastic sponsor. He's been in the comments quite a bit and maybe egging on Jody just a little bit as well. But anyway, I digress.
It's all good.
It's all good. We love our sponsor even
love our
when he is.
It's good convo.
There you go. There you go. Good conversation, and we appreciate it. Just like we appreciate Willow Seasonings and Blends, man. I'll tell you what, gentlemen. I posted this up to David Slade on his Twitter. I don't know if he had seen it as of yet, but just a few days ago, I found myself in the kitchen. I was making a little bit of breakfast, man. Breakfast is one of my favorites, man. I love breakfast. I can do a 24-hour breakfast any time of the day, right? And getting everything ready, I was making up a little sausage and cheese omelet. And I was about ready to grab the salt and pepper, and I said, what am I doing? I grabbed for my Willow Seasonings SPG. I know you guys make fun of me because it's my favorite, but that salt, pepper, garlic, SPG, I sprinkled a little in. I finished up my omelet, and I'm telling you, literally, I'm not lying. I think it's the best omelet I ever tasted. Ever. The seasonings were fantastic. It was just amazing. But man, I'm telling you, there is tons of seasonings that they have available. So don't think it's just SPG and their salt, pepper, and garlic, man. There are tons of different ones that you can go out there. But I think it's really important because this is something that Dave told me a long time ago, man. His recipes are different than just about anything else you have out there. I would not try this with any other seasoning brand or blend because quite honestly, a lot of them are full of a ton of salt, and you don't want all that salt flavor in your eggs, in your omelet. That's not what I was looking for. I'm telling you that SPG, it was perfect. It seasoned it fantastic, and it was amazing. So tell your friends about SPG, but tell your friends about Willow Seasonings and Blends. That's Willow Seasonings and Blends. You can find them at willowseasonings.com. That's willowseasonings.com. You can have it delivered right to your door. Available all along the Front Range as well. But I'm telling you, it was a recipe like no other, gentlemen. If you ever want to impress like your family on a little breakfast morning, sprinkle SPG in there. I'm telling you, it is fantastic. Oh, and hey, look at this. I was going through all my spiel and looking kind of at what I had written down, and here comes Dave. He says, "Look at this. It's March Madness over at Willow Seasonings.com. They have a March Madness sale going on right now, all the way through April 3rd. Even more reason to go out and check out Willow Seasonings and Blends at willowseasonings.com. That's willowseasonings.com. Check it out and check out their March Madness. I know I'm going to check it out because I'm going to need a refill on my SPG here pretty soon the way I've been using it. So I love it, man. So, all right, gentlemen. Since we were able to take a little bit of a breather there, hopefully Jody could digress out of the last topic and get into this next one. Hopefully not nearly as heated. It has nothing to do with Russell Wilson. But Matthew Berry said he heard, quote unquote, the Broncos are quietly shopping Courtland Sutton, not actively pushing him, but definitely trying to see if there's a trade market for him. And if they get a decent offer, they would move him. So, very similar to last time, 2 questions. I'll go to Jody, Albert, and then myself on this. A, do you believe the report? And second question on this is, what price would the draft pick have to be in order to trade for Courtland Sutton in your mind? Jody, you first again.
Yeah, I believe the report just because I mean he's got a they want to dump that salary. Um, he really had he's not Denver's true number one anymore, and they're paying him like a number one. You got Jerry Judy coming up, and that's why I think they're quietly shopping him. If they don't get what they want out of him, then they're not just going to give him away. I think they still think they can get something out of him, but that I think that's a salary dump. I think more than anything.
I'd have to look up his salary. I know that him and Tim Patrick got paid decently a few years ago. If you have a chance while we kind of go around the horn, I'll go over to Albert next, and maybe you can give me that number if that's okay, buddy. So, Albert, do you believe it's real? And I think we'll need to get Jody's draft compensation if it happens to be the case. But Albert, is it real and draft compensation you need to get in order to trade Cortland Sutton away?
Yeah, and I can see it indeed happen. His numbers were not great last year. It doesn't look like he is that motivated anymore. We have speculated this already the last couple sessions that we were talking on the podcast. So yeah, I definitely can see it happen. But I would not take less than a third round pick. Definitely in the third rounder. And if we can get a little bit more, great.
How about a compensatory third round pick then? It depends upon how he performs. Performs great, then you get higher. Performs not so great, get a little bit lower. Fine with that.
No, just
within the third round still. Third round compensatory pick. Okay.
Yeah, okay. That's fine with me.
Okay. I was just giving him a little bit of leeway there. He's like, no, I'm not getting a seventh rounder for the guy.
No.
Jody, what would you need to get in order to let Cortland Sutton go? And as Kenny says, maybe a team like the Giants, Ravens, Browns may be interested.
For me, I'll agree with Albert. Probably a 3. I think Denver will probably let him go for a 4. I mean, his cap hits $18.2 million next year.
Oh wow!
17.3 the following year, 17.8 and 25. I mean, those are big numbers for a guy that's had 4 touchdowns in the last 3 seasons.
Yeah,
hasn't been the same wide receiver since that knee injury. Just hasn't. I mean, he's your solid number 2, but he's making number 1 money. He just hasn't been explosive. But I also think Denver just doesn't want to give him away for, peanuts either.
Yeah. Before I get into, I guess, my portion, I just a couple more shout outs because the chat board's blowing up tonight, guys, and I really appreciate everyone that's jumping in here. We'd have Adam and Kayla jumping in a little bit later in the show, but always great to see you, Adam and Kayla. I think we might have missed you last week, so good to see you this week, man. Really appreciate you jumping in here, being part, and saying, hey, what's up, family, and what's up with you guys? Good to see you, and nice to see you again. Nice to see you. I think we missed you last week. Hopefully, we just didn't miss you. Hopefully, it was co. You were missing, and we missed you. Also, I just got to jump in here and let you guys know, Dave Slade, of course, part of Willow Seasonings, letting us know that his March Madness sale that he has going on, $9 for the rubs because they have these fantastic rubs, and $7 for the sauces. I forgot about the sauces. They have about 3 sauces. I think maybe a 4th coming if I remember correctly. But 3 sauces if I remember correctly, plus all their rubs or their seasonings, their blends. Great deals across the board. I'm telling you, best $9, best $7 you'll ever spend, especially when you get to throw it on everything, including your omelets or in your omelets. So anyway, I digress. It's tough to see Cortland Sutton not being the same guy that he was, not being the Pro Bowler he was before the injury, and not seeming to have that drive. And I think a big part of that too. Unfortunately, especially if he ends up moving on from the Denver Broncos, if they do get compensation that they feel is relevant and move on from him, I think Tim Patrick is a big motivator for that wide receiver room, for the offensive team, for Cortland Sutton personally, and not having him last year, for Cortland Sutton to go down for Tim Patrick to go down the way he did so early in camp, and for Cortland Sutton to have to be kind of the leader, kind of the veteran guy in that room solely, I think was a little bit taxing on him. I don't think he's up for that role, and I don't think that's where he fits the best. I think he really missed Tim Patrick, and it showed on, not the field. So Michael Ronquillo jumping in and saying, I would trade Cortland Sutton for an early third-round pick before picks 67 and 68, and our other picks in the 2023 NFL draft. Good point, man. If you could jump all the way in front of those 67 and 68 picks, it really gives you a lot of ability to be maneuverable with those 67 and number 67 and number 68 picks as well. So if you could get up in front, that would be fantastic. Good point there. I appreciate that, Michael. So
that's the thing for me too, is they're probably going to play Judy at the X now after his last 5 games, and he's probably your true number 1. If Patrick come back, he's at the Y and you're number 2. Where are you playing Sutton really for that kind of money? Is he's not a, I mean, yeah, I could see Fitzgerald once in a while, but he's not a true slot.
No.
So if he's not on the field, I mean, you're paying $18 million for a guy not to play starter minutes. I mean, or starter snaps. That's a tough pill to swallow now with him.
Yeah, Matt Staffiero says he could see a 4th, and a 6th for Sutton. I see, kind of giving a double dip, giving a 4th and a 6th. I thought he was saying a 4th or a 6th at first, and I was about ready to slap him, saying that he think he could get a 6th for Cortland Sutton.
See, I don't want them to do like they did last year with Malik Jackson and just give him away. Like, I felt like they just gave Malik Jackson away for no reason, and it came back to bite him later. Or Malik Reed, excuse me, later in the season when they were down to Jonathan Cooper and, Baron Browning, who was not, or Nick Benito, who was not ready to start.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You feel like you're deep until you're not. That's for dang sure.
Right.
All right. Did we get all the way around the horn on that one? We did get all the way around the horn on that one.
Yep.
So we got to get to number 3. As he said, the biggest news for the Broncos, and maybe the NFL Combine, according to Barry, was that Javonte Williams' injury has a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions around that injury, I should say. Saying, quote unquote, there's a chance he is healthy to start the year. There is a chance he misses multiple games. There is a chance there is actually a chance he misses all of next year. I was told he is currently a lot more hurt than the team is letting on publicly, and that the Broncos are secretly nervous. The reason I went to Jody on the first 2 is because I wanted to get to Albert on this one. He's a Pookie fan. So, Albert, 2 questions for you. How concerned are you that Javonte misses, I'll say, 6 or more games next year? And number 2, do you think the Broncos essentially need to move on from Pookie via either bringing in a high-quality free agent or a top pick as far as the Broncos are concerned, which would be maybe 3rd or 4th round?
So, if Pookie comes back, I want him to be healthy, and if it takes 5 or 6 games in a new season, so be it.
Okay.
We want to give him all the chance that he can be the player that he was, and if we start him too early, we have seen it with Bradley Chubb, starting plays too early, that might prolong it in the long run. With this suggestion from this guy, he might start in the season, he might 5 or 6, or he might not play the entire season. I think he is grasping for straw homes, or whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, grasping at straws.
I mean, he gave all 3 options. I mean, he may or may not play. He may or not be ready.
And we have Latavius. He is give him a 1-year contract. He was doing really great, and getting a quarterback of a running back in the 3rd round. I have no problem with that.
Okay.
So that somebody can grow behind Latavius Murray, and when Latavius Murray is no longer playing and Pookie is back up to healthy, now we have 2 decent running backs. I have no problem with that.
Okay, we're not moving on. According to Albert, we're not going to move on from, and we're not going to dismiss Pookie at this point. But hey, if we see the right guy, maybe sitting there in the third or fourth round that we want to draft and bring into Broncos country, we do know that Sean Payton loves that two-back system, so that makes obviously good sense to have a good quality back, that maybe a third or a fourth round back. Jody, what are your thoughts on this, buddy? Other than you laughing at the wide spread of possibilities of Javonte playing or not playing, but go ahead.
I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I feel like it's more something to just drum something up. I mean, we know he's coming off a massive knee injury. Jeff Legwall put this out a couple weeks ago that he may miss multiple games this year, and I mean, I think it's silly to think that come week one that he's going to be 100%. I mean, he didn't just tear his ACL; he did a lot of damage to that knee, and
Yeah.
I mean, and I go back and I know this is a while back, but look at Terrell Davis. I mean, that was a simple ACL tear, and he never was the same after that.
Correct.
So I think it would be silly for the Broncos to just think that he's going to be ready week one and not address this as a need. So if he's back week one and ready to go, that's a bonus for Denver. You've got stable running backs. If he's not, there's no need to rush him because you've addressed the problem. I think it's going to be something that they draft a running back, or maybe even in free agency as well, David Montgomery, and draft a running back along with like a Latavius Murray to fill like that Mark Ingram type role in New Orleans.
Fair enough, man. I threw a few comments up on the board, but Kenny jumping in, saying he thinks that Williams' injury is no joke. You most definitely need a legitimate starting running back, whether draft or free agency. Matt Staffiero jumping in and says it's why you've heard them being involved in the running back market. And something I alluded to in a little bit of our ad that I put out beforehand. You know, there's been a lot of ties now to Kareem Hunt. Again, former or current running back for the Cleveland Browns, wanted out last year. Really saw his touches decline as the year went, progressed, and they were in games where passing was needed. I guess it didn't help. But Kareem Hunt, watch for that name. It's a name that's kind of heating up out there. A good point was brought up. I believe I was listening to 104.3 The Fan when Sean Payton first got to the Saints. He had to take chances on a lot of guys that may not have the most favorable pass, but guys that really want to join a team and be part of something, and maybe are looking to reclaim themselves and be on the right path. That's some of those things that you look at you listen for when you're interviewing these guys to make sure that they're headed down the right path rather than the wrong path that they were once on. And Kareem Hunt kind of fits that bill. So Hunt is one that I really think that we should get kind of used to, or at least the idea. Not that I have any inside information, just as much as it's kind of heating up among multiple outlets, I would not be surprised if that's a name that we see brought in. So,
and it's something I don't want to overlook. When Russ was always at his best, he always had a legit running game behind him, and that's what I don't want to see Denver just try to piece together until Williams maybe does not come back healthy. I think you have to look at it like he's not coming back, and if he does, that's just a bonus because of the severity of that injury.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is very tough. If I remember right, he tore 2 ligaments and sprained his third. So I mean, it's not like or something to that. I think that was right. It tore 2, sprained a third. I almost guarantee it. So it's a massive injury to come back from. I threw Matt Staffiero. He says Broncos need to sign a running back and draft one. I'd target Miles Sanders and David Montgomery. Don't read ahead on the comments, Albert. I like that idea. I think that Miles Sanders is just going to be a little bit out of our price range. I think he's going to command a little bit more, especially where he's coming from. David Montgomery, I do think, is a possibility with ties
So the
to
only
our
thing with Miles
coaching
Sanders
as
that
well. So
makes me wonder is he had a great season, and then all of a sudden he didn't play in the Super Bowl very much. Why did he get abandoned in the biggest game of the season?
why
That
did say
is
say
a
that one more
mystery to
time,
me.
man?
I mean, he had a great season, and
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden in the Super Bowl he had very limited touches, and he didn't really do. They didn't really play him, and something happened there. I don't know what. That is a mystery to me. Why all of a sudden they just abandoned him in the biggest game of the year?
Yeah, I think they were playing their strong hand though too. They had their other running back. Now I'm forgetting his name, but he was coming on strong, and they'd been wanting to get him more touches, but he was injured early in the year. So he was coming on strong in the later half of the year. Maybe they're just playing the hot hand. I'm not really sure. Since you guys are all laughing, Kenny's just jumping in the chat and saying, I'm going to make Albert a believer in Alexander Madison. He'd be the perfect complementary back to Williams and could be a number one if needed. I think that's why you're laughing anyway.
Yeah, that was I was laughing about indeed. And apparently, Alexander Madison used to be a Boise Bronco, so he is used to being a Bronco.
There you go. So now Albert's on board. Sign us up. we're all set to go. Gentlemen, we're running really kind of late on time because we're right about an hour, but I'll hit a little bit of this next topic. The NFL Combine was obviously up. Free agency's obviously out there as well. I'm going to go ahead. There's obviously a lot of different positions that we could hit. So, like, the idea behind this was this last little segment that I wanted to get to was the NFL Combine. We could potentially land some talent there. We could also get it through free agency. So, Jody, is there a position or a player that you want to hit? And then Albert, if you can think of anybody in free agency or anybody else for that matter that maybe we could bring in for that position, we can go from there and just kind of throw a few ideas out there. But is there any guy that really kind of jumped off the tape that might be available to the Denver Broncos for you, Jody?
From the Combine?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Um,
I know that you were watching a little bit. You told me.
yeah,
you were
there are. There's a few. There's some really good linebackers there. Some really good interior offensive linemen, which I think that's where Denver's going to focus. They got to find a left guard.
Yeah.
It was a real bummer to see the guy from USC go down with a torn ACL. I mean,
Yeah, Voorhees when he went down.
yeah,
I agree.
and then he ended up doing the bench the next day, and had the most reps on bench of any lineman. So I mean,
yeah.
So
Andrew Voorhees out of USC, I was looking at him too. 6'6", 310 pounds. He was originally projected at maybe around the third round from what I was seeing by a lot of different outlets. So big dude, and unfortunately, like you said, went down. But go ahead, buddy.
And then running backs, there's actually the one that's really caught my eye is Chris Rodriguez from Kentucky. He's been, I mean, if you just go look at his numbers, what he put up in Kentucky, he had the nose for the end zone. His only one downfall was they didn't really use him in the pass game. And I think that's going to be huge this year for Russ as a running back that can catch the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah, for sure. Sean Payton offense kind of leans away that way. Albert, any guards, tackles that you're seeing out there, free agency wise, or as we already kind of talked a little bit about running backs, but if you had another running back name out there that you see in free agency, anything that you're seeing out there for us?
So I heard that one of the, I hope I was right, that I read it right, that one of the offensive linemen of the Eagles might be available.
Okay.
And that would be a prospect I would go after because we need an offensive lineman.
Yeah. Offensive lineman is someplace that obviously I've been looking at. I do have my big notebook. If you hear me flipping pages back here, I don't have the memory like I used to. So, names don't just fly off the top of the head. But, a few names that I was really liking. I don't know with the combine that he had. Blake Freeland Blake Freeland out of BYU is a fantastic prospect that I would love to get my hands on. If he dropped to us, that would be fantastic. But like I said, he had a really good combine, so I don't know if he'll drop to where we'd like. Zion Nelson out of Miami, 6'5", 316 pounds, 35-inch arms, just a beast of a guy, projected to be around in there in the 4th round. I wouldn't mind maybe taking a stab at Voorhees late in the draft. You know, that's one of those 6th round, 7th round type of guys that, you know, because of the injury that you can maybe pick up, originally projected in the 3rd, but now he's going to be coming back from that ACL. You know, that's going to unfortunately hurt his stock quite a bit, I believe. So, you know, and then Jalen Duncan out of Maryland, he's another guy I would look at as far as guards and tackles. A lot of these guys, when you're looking at these guys, you don't know if they're going to end up being, you know, starting tackles are going to be really tough for us to find in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. More likely we get a tackle that's going to start off as a guard in the NFL and maybe work his way back out to tackle. But trying to find a starting left tackle, right tackle, I think in this draft, it's not heavy for top talent. Running backs, I know that a lot of people have been on Arcane out of Texas A&M. That's been linked to us quite a bit, and he had a 4.32 in the 40. I don't know if we're going to be able to get there. Michael Ronquillo's coming in here with a name that I actually have on my list as well. Tyjae Spears out of Tulane. He had a 4.40, 5'9". This guy has some ability out of the backfield as well. That's a name I'd look for as well. Zach Evans out of Ole Miss. Not the blazing 4.32 that Arcane had, but a 4.42, comes in at 202 pounds and 511 pounds. Those are just a few names that I would keep an eye out as far as the combine are concerned. Any other names, Albert? We were kind of giving you the floor as far as free agencies. I know that we talked about some names out there like a Kareem Hunt, but any other names that you would hit on as far as free agencies? I know a lot of people. There's been a lot of big talk that people are shopping. All the Titans are shopping. Who's the Titans?
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry. I mean, I think that's way out of our price range, but you know, there's another name out there I know. So,
and Derrick Henry, I think he is. Is he going to be as good as he was in the last couple of years?
Yeah,
I think he's on a downhill.
Injuries are piling up there. So,
yeah, he's getting a little older now too. If we want to get an older guy, we might as well get the Beast again. Yeah. Like I said,
I'll throw one other name out there that I saw on the free agent list that I'm not sure if he'll end up getting all the way to free agency if he wants to leave where he's at. But Rashad Penny is a free agent out of Seattle. What do you guys think of Rashad Penny? Albert, I'll let you hit that first and then jump over to Jody as well.
Rashad Penny, I think he's a little bit of a brawler, and he can catch in the backfield. He's good. He has worked with Russell before, so they have a little bit of a. Yeah, I would not mind seeing a Rashad Penny. Definitely.
Jody, are you in agreement there, or how do you feel about him?
Yeah, I like that idea because I think Seattle has invested in Kenneth Walker, and I think he's probably the future up there. So yeah, I think he makes a lot of sense.
And lastly, Michael Ronquillo coming in here saying Kansas State running back Deuce Vaughn is the smallest running back in the 2023 draft at 5'5", but his footwork was smooth during the on-field workout at the combine. Definitely took a look at Deuce Vaughn as well. I'm hoping that he's actually available because, like you said, he did have some great footwork. He's got a little bit of speed. I know he's a little bit small, but you know that's not the worst thing in the world in today's NFL. You'd love to be able to hide behind those O-linemen. I'll take another look at Deuce Vaughn, Michael, because honestly, I didn't take a look at his on-field drills as much as some of the other guys. So
yeah, And he is so small, he can just run through the knees of all the offensive linemen.
There might be, especially if you got 6'6" Alex or Andrew Voorhees on the edge out there. You know what I mean? Just a duck. You know, you're all set to go. And as David Slade saying, that Darren Sproles type, yeah. Darren Sproles, Deuce McAllister back in the day. Those types fit really well into that Sean Payton system. So, guys, any other ideas, names, or positions that you want to hit before we jump out of here?
The Michael Mayer, I mean, he's going to be a first-round draft pick. I mean, he's probably the best tight end in this draft. But the guy out of Georgia, and his name's just escaping my mind. I mean, he blew up the sled. I mean, he pushed it back. He had one-handed catches. I mean, he's 6'8". He's a giant of a man for a tight end. I think he's going to jump up the boards with his combine. I mean, he's really good. And then one other thing I found interesting is I didn't realize how big Ohio State's starting tackles were. I didn't realize they were both, 6'8", north of 350, both of them. I mean, they were, ginormous tackles.
Yeah.
I mean, they were comparing them Trent Brown size.
Yeah, those are big boys up there, buddy. Big boys up there, man. It is amazing some of the stats that you end up finding out once a combine hits. I'm gonna try to make your night, Jody. Just getting out of here. I'm gonna list off a few more names in my great big book of everybody here that I'm putting together here. One name that I really want to talk about, edge rusher, a guy that I think might be available to us if we're lucky, if he falls far enough. Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame, 6'5", 200 and got to read my hand.
Oh,
right
great
there.
I'm a huge Notre Dame fan, so.
Yep. So I said I'm gonna
try
to make your night, but
he's probably a first round draft pick.
Yeah, some people are saying second, maybe even late second. I'm hoping that, if we got lucky, like I said, I'm trying to make your night, buddy. You're getting out of here. At center, possible gentleman named Jarrett Patterson out of Notre Dame, 6'5", 306 pounds, 31 3/8 arms, ran a 5.3 40. Projected to go around the 5th round, so certainly a possibility for Broncos fans that don't really start picking up those picks until the 3rd round. So,
me and Matt have debated him a lot, and an interesting stat about him: in 4 years of college, he gave up 0 sacks.
Wow.
He gave up I think he gave up 30. I'd have to look it up. 38 pressures in 4 seasons. I mean, less than 1 pressure a game.
There you go, buddy.
So I mean.
Like I said, he's making my list of possibilities, man. I'm not trying to. I've
been on him for a while.
I'm not blowing anything up your skirt here,
I've been on Jared Patterson for a while because those 2 stats really jump off for me. Notre Dame ran the heck out of the ball last year.
Yeah, they did,
and he was one of the main reasons he was there. And even when they passed the ball for 4 years, I mean, to not give up 1 sack in college, I mean, to me, that's an impressive stat that gets really overlooked.
David Slade has to jump in here and give you a little bit of bad time. He's saying leave the Notre Dame players for the XFL.
I mean, Jack Cohen, he's been balling out. Not much. I can't.
Can't dispute it, huh? He's balling out though. At least he's balling out. At least he's not down there, stinking it up in the XFL. That's not where you want to be.
Paxton Lynch.
Okay, maybe if you get pulled in the first game of the inaugural season or the first game of the season, that's not a good sign. Kenny Kirkpatrick does come in here with one name that really at the combine, QB later rounds to a backup for Russ, Stetson Bennett, and I say 100% Kenny. I know I was given a bad time with some of the guys over on the 5280 zone. And I was asking them, CJ Stroud, Stetson Bennett, who goes higher. Obviously, CJ Stroud's expected to go in the very top of the draft. But I'm telling you, Stetson Bennett actually, I think, has more in him than people give him give him,
His deep
props
ball
for
really
it.
impressed me when he was throwing those deep. I mean, he was dropping them right in the bucket.
Perfect on time. That takes judging your wide receiver and being able to get that timing perfect. Another name that I really liked and I felt had the arm was Jaron Hall out of BYU. He had the arm, but he didn't have the timing. He overthrew like his receivers 2 out of the 3 throws that he had going down the sideline. In comparison, Stetson Bennett, nice deep ball, dropping it right in the bucket, like you were saying. Man, I'm telling you.
One thing you can't overlook with him is he is a winner, and I mean that counts for a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, from where he came from being at Georgia, having to go back to junior college, back to Georgia, 2-time national champ. I mean, yeah, we used to have a guy here that was a big Georgia fan. We'd go rounds and rounds if he's going to get drafted or not. But I would take Bennett in a heartbeat. I mean, he's a leader, a winner, and the deep passes. Those really impressed me. I mean, they were dropped in the bucket. Receivers didn't have to slow down and wait for the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just put their hands right out, and it was right there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I said, I think it's a possibility. I didn't get to this name earlier, so I want to do it now. Sis, I noticed you're still in the comments. Didn't even give you a shout out. Sis, another part of the K&K group over there, but Sis more than anything, great guy, knows his sports, and always appreciate him having him in the comments and watching our show. Michael Ronquillo knows about what time it is because he's already trying to wrap us up, guys. He's saying, great show, Keith, Jody, and Albert. Knows we're already past our time. I appreciate you keeping us on point. And hey, I appreciate you jumping in and being part of the show, Michael. Always great to see you and great to see your face. So, man, thanks for being part.
I do have a question about the quarterback backup situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit it, Albert.
Okay. Now that the Raiders, Josh McDaniels did his gig again, trades his top quarterback to the Saints.
Yep, let's him go. Saints sign him up. Yep.
What does that do for the Denver Broncos? Derek Carr going to the Saints.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. I thought when you brought this up, because we had a little bit of a pregame, I thought the way you were going for this frees up Jameis Winston. And speaking of backups and needing one in Denver, I thought maybe that's where we're heading Derek Carr leaves the Raiders, but it also frees up Jameis Winston to come to the Denver Broncos as well. Obviously, I don't know what they're doing. There's talks of them trading up in the draft, trying to get a quarterback with their first pick in the draft. I can't imagine Stidham is their long-term answer. If it is, at least for next year, then go Broncos. It should be a little bit easier path than trying to go up against Derek Carr. That's my 2 cents. Jody, yours.
Now that Aaron Rodgers has been having formal talks with the Jets and stuff, I think that's where I think Jimmy G ends up in Oakland. I mean, he has ties to Josh McDaniels.
True.
I can't really think of another really situation. I think the Panthers all these teams in the upper part are going to get their quarterback. And from all reports, it sounds like Tampa's going to give Kyle Trask an opportunity. So I think that almost makes a perfect landing spot for Jimmy G because he's worked with Josh McDaniels.
True. David Slade just jumping in here saying Jimmy G to Houston is gaining some traction. Another name that I just wanted to put out right before I got on the air, didn't get to research a whole lot on this. Rumors are Drew Lock to Tampa Bay to back up Kyle Trask. So our good friend Drew Lock getting his tour around the NFL now as he left Broncos country, headed up to Seattle last year and didn't get that starting spot, but might be backing up Trask down in Tampa Bay this next year. So with that being said, gentlemen, like I said, I'm appreciate it. We're not too far over. We didn't get that tidy little wrapped up hour like I like I had wanted. But I'm going to blame Jody this episode. Jody went on a rant when we started talking about Russ getting a little bit of flack in the media. And I thought he was going to hyperventilate. I think I saw him turn red a few times. Thought he was going to just pass out on screen. But he made it through. Took some deep breaths. Thought about Bob Ross, and we got him back. But we did go a little bit over on time.
We seasoned him well.
We seasoned him well. Willow Seasonings and Blends. One last little plug there, So it was a fantastic show. As JC's jumping in here saying, "Let's go, boys!" I'm excited for free agency. We're excited as well. Kenny jumping in saying, "Best Broncos trio in the game." Kenny, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you, and appreciate you being part of the chat and making it a part of your evenings on Tuesdays to be here. So I appreciate that a ton. Dave Slade coming in here say, "Agree, great show, guys." So thank you so much. And even getting an apology, I'm sorry, from Sis saying, "All good, Keith." You don't get a whole lot of apologies from Sis. So I don't know if that actually counts as an apology, but that's as close as you get from Sis. Me saying, for me not recognizing him earlier, I'm just giving you a bad time, Sis. Sis is great people, but I appreciate you jumping in there. Appreciate Michael Ronquillo. Like I said, Kenny, Dave, Matt. We had, we had Graham in here earlier. We had Adam and Kayla in here. Thank you to everybody who come out and support our show.
Thank you.
Every single Thursday. All of a sudden, I'm jumping ahead. Maybe we should have a Thursday. No. Every single Tuesday night. I appreciate you guys jumping on here. Of course, just a reminder: please follow. Please smash that like button as you're getting out of here. Please subscribe. Make sure that you know when we're coming on, and if you don't know when we're coming on, you get that nice little handy reminder. Let you know. To all your friends and family, we appreciate it, especially if they're Broncos fans, and we even appreciate it if they're Raiders fans. We'll make fun of them. We're on many social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So go ahead and you can find us out there as well. Thank you so much to our followers. Thank you to our sponsors, Rocky Mountain Sports Network, who bring us to you every single Tuesday, and Willow Seasonings and Blends. Remember, Willow Seasonings and Blends, willowseasonings.com. Well, gentlemen, until next Tuesday, we'll be back at 6:30 p.m. Round it all up, all your Denver Broncos news, notes, rumors, you got it. But until next week, we're going to get out of here. Have a good evening, everyone. See you then.